Welcome all. Today we see about the scalp and the temple. In scalp, we see about definition of scalp and its extension, layers, superficial temporal region, arterial supply, venous drainage, lymphatic drainage, nerve supply and its clinical anatomy. Now we see about the definition of scalp. Scalp is a soft tissue which covers the cranial vault. It is also called as safety layer because it protects the underlying cranial vault. The scalp extends anteriorly up to supraorbital margin, posteriorly superior nuchal line and external occipital protuberance. Superior nuchal line. There are 4 nuchal lines present on the occipital bone. So here we say about the superior nuchal line only. On each side, the scalp extends to superior temporal line. We see about the layers of scalp, which consist of 5 layers and can be remembered by the mnemonics scalp. Here the S denotes skin and C denotes connective tissue, which is superficial fascia, and A denotes the aponeurosis, that is epicranial aponeurosis or otherwise called as gallia aponeurotica, and L denotes the loose areolar tissue and P denotes pericranium. First of all, we see about the skin, which is thick and hairy and adherent to the epicranial aponeurosis through the superficial fascia. The next one is subcutaneous or superficial fascia, which is dense and fibrous in the center, and it binds the skin to the aponeurosis and provide a medium for the passage of vessels and the nerves to the skin. Next we see about the occipitofrontalis muscle, which has the 2 bellies, occipital or occipitalis belly and the frontal or frontalis belly. Both have the insertion into the epicranial aponeurosis. First we see about the occipital bellies, which are small and separate, arise from the lateral 2/3 of the superior nuchal line and supplied by the posterior auricular branch of facial nerve. The second one, that is frontal belly, which are longer, wider and partly united in the median plane, arises from the skin of forehead and mingles with the orbicularis oculi and corrugata supercilii, which is supplied by the temporal branch of facial nerve. This muscle helps to raise the eyebrows and also causes horizontal wrinkles in the skin of the forehead. Next we see about the epicranial aponeurosis, which is otherwise called as gallia aponeurotica, which is freely movable. Anteriorly, it receives the insertion of frontalis and posteriorly it receives the insertion of occipitalis and attached to the external occipital protuberance and to the highest nuchal line. On each side, it extends up to superior temporal line. So, these 3 skin, superficial fascia and aponeurosis, these 3 are also called the surgical layers of the scalp or scalp proper. Next of all, we see about the 4th layer, which is loose areolar tissue, otherwise called as danger layer of the scalp because of the presence of emissary vein. This emissary vein connects the extracranial veins to the intracranial venous sinus, and its extension anteriorly it extends up to the eyelids because the frontalis muscle has no bony attachment. So it extends up to the eyelids and posteriorly to the highest and superior nuchal line. On each side to the superior temporal lines. The 5th layer is called pericranium, which is loosely attached to the bony surface and firmly attached to the sutures, where the sutural ligament binds the pericranium to the endocranium. Superficial temporal region. Here the temporal arises from the word tempus, which means time. So this area has a significance that the graying of hair starts here. And this area lies between the superior temporal line and the zygomatic arch, which is enclosed of 6 layers, which is skin, superficial fascia and a thin extension of epicranial aponeurosis, which gives the origin of the extrinsic muscles of auricle and attached to the zygomatic arch. Next, the temporal fascia and temporalis muscle and the pericranium. Arterial supply of the scalp and superficial temporal region are divided into 2, in front of the auricle and behind the auricle. For in front of the auricle, supratrochlear, supraorbital and superficial temporal arteries plays a major role in the arterial supply of the scalp and temple region in front of the auricle. For behind the auricle, the scalp is supplied by posterior auricular and occipital arteries. Now we see about the supratrochlear and supraorbital. These are the branches of ophthalmic artery, which in turn is a branch of internal carotid artery, where the superficial temporal artery is a branch of external carotid artery. Because of the internal and external carotid artery, the scalp is highly vascular. And the posterior auricular and occipital arteries both are the branches of external carotid artery. So the scalp receives high blood supply which are derived from both internal and external carotid arteries. These two systems anastomosis over the temple region. The veins of the scalp accompany the arteries with a similar name. Mainly the supratrochlear, supraorbital, superficial temporal veins. In addition to these, we have to see about the emissary veins, occipital veins and diploic veins. The supratrochlear and supraorbital veins unite at the medial angle of the eye and forms angular vein, which continues down as the facial vein. The superficial temporal vein descends in front of the tragus and enters into the parotid gland and joins with the maxillary vein to form the retromandibular vein, which has two divisions, that is anterior division and posterior division. The anterior division of the retromandibular vein unites with the facial vein to form the common facial vein, which drains into the jugular vein, that is internal jugular vein. The posterior division of the retromandibular vein unites with the posterior auricular vein to form the external jugular vein, which ultimately drains into the subclavian vein. Now we see about the occipital veins, which terminate at the suboccipital venous plexus. Then the emissary veins. The emissary veins always connects the extracranial vein to the intracranial venous sinus to equalize the pressure. Now we see about the parietal emissary veins. There are two emissary veins, that is parietal and mastoid. Now we see about the parietal emissary veins, which passes through the parietal foramen and enters into the superior sagittal sinus. The mastoid emissary vein passes through the mastoid foramen and reaches the sigmoid sinus. Last, we see about the diploic veins. These diploic veins start from the cancellous bone within the two tables of the skull and carry the newly formed blood cells into the general circulation. There are four diploic veins on each side. They are frontal diploic vein, occipital diploic vein, anterior temporal diploic vein and posterior temporal diploic vein. The frontal diploic vein emerges at the supraorbital notch and opens into the supraorbital vein, and the occipital diploic veins opens either into the occipital vein or into the transverse sinus. The anterior temporal diploic vein ends in anterior deep temporal vein or the sphenoparietal sinus, and the posterior temporal diploic vein ends in the transverse sinus. We see about the lymphatic drainage, which is divided into two parts, that is anterior and posterior. The for anterior part of the scalp, preauricular and parotid lymph nodes plays a major role in the lymphatic drainage of the anterior part of the scalp, whereas the posterior part of the scalp is drained by posterior auricular, mastoid and occipital lymph nodes. About the nerve supply of the scalp and temple region. The scalp and temple region are divided into two regions, that is in front of the auricle and behind the auricle. Totally there are 10 nerves which supplies on each side of the scalp and temple region. So in front of the auricle 5 nerves and behind the auricle 5 nerves. So out of these 5, 4 are sensory and 1 is motor. So in front of the auricle the sensory nerves are supratrochlear and supraorbital, which is a branch of ophthalmic division of trigeminal nerve. Zygomaticotemporal, which is a maxillary division of trigeminal nerve, and auriculotemporal, which is a branch of mandibular division of trigeminal nerve, and the one motor nerve is temporal branch of facial nerve. And for behind the auricle, the scalp is supplied by the sensory nerves are posterior division of great auricular nerve from the cervical plexus C2 and C3, and lesser occipital nerve C2 from the cervical plexus, greater occipital nerve C2 from the dorsal ramus, and third occipital nerve C3 from the dorsal ramus, and one motor nerve is posterior auricular branch of facial nerve. So these are the nerves which supplies the scalp and temple region. Anatomy of the scalp. It is also called a safety layer because it protects the underlying cranial vault. The first 3 layers of the scalp, that is skin, superficial fascia and the epicranial aponeurosis, are called as surgical layers of the scalp or scalp proper, and the loose areolar tissue, the fourth layer of the scalp, is also called as dangerous area of the scalp because of the presence of emissary veins. These emissary veins connect the intracranial venous sinus and the extracranial veins. Now we see about the wounds. If any wounds present on the scalp bleeds profusely because of the highly vascular supply of the scalp. So bleeding can be arrested by applying the pressure above the ears by a tight cotton bandage against the bone. Now we see about the cephalohematoma. The pericranium is adherent to the suture, so the collection of fluid deep to the pericranium is known as cephalohematoma. Now we see about the sebaceous cyst. The first picture describes the sebaceous cyst and the second one is cephalohematoma. The sebaceous cyst is the presence of abundant sebaceous gland on the scalp, which is a common site for sebaceous cyst. And the cephalohematoma, that is the fluid collection deep to the pericranium, that is called as cephalohematoma. This was the description of superficial temporal region and the scalp. Thank you.